today's episode, I'm talking with Kim Fredrich, a B2B sales specialist who believes selling is really about serving. Her no hoodwinkery here philosophy may be a function of her displaced Canadian status, but her sales smarts come from training with experts in the UK and the US, including Xerox. Kim is the author of If You Can Have a Conversation, You Can Sell, and is now the VP of Sales for Global Public Speaking. Today, we talk about Kim's journey into and out of entrepreneurship. Kim gets vulnerable, sharing the practical and emotional decision to step away from her business, and we talk about failure, success, and the privilege of entrepreneurship. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Hi, Kim. Thanks for being here today.
Hi, Jennifer. I'm so glad to be here talking with you.
Well, me too. And we've talked about having this conversation a few times, and you were not exactly ready to talk. So I'm excited to get into your story and your business and where you are professionally, because I know you personally through the sales world, right? Like you've been a sales consultant, a sales executive. You've written a book on sales. But I know you've got a lot going on, a lot of other things that you're working on. So what is your story? Where are you in your journey?
Well, it's funny that that's how you opened it, because I think one of the reasons that you wanted us to have this conversation is because of that, where that journey has taken me and where I've ended up now. So it was happening sort of last fall, I guess. I got to go back a little further than that, actually. I had set up an aspect of business that I thought was going to allow me to scale my business, which, as a small business, you're always like, well, how can I grow this? How can I make this bigger and still stay true to what I want to be, what I want to do, who I want to help? And I thought I had found that at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I tested it, and then I rolled it out, and I started bringing people on board on contract basis, and it worked really, really well until it didn't. And then I went, okay, so now what? Do I revamp again, go back to basics again, rebrand, do all that re-stuffing, or do I say, okay, I put in the time, it's ready for time for something new? And honestly, what happened was I went to my husband, who is the main financial breadwinner, and I said, I know that our expenses as a household have increased, and what do I actually need to be bringing into the family in order to make this work? And he gave me a number, and I went, oh, that's my answer. So yes, could I have gone back and rebranded, and could I have revamped and done that all again because I'd put in so much time and effort? Sure, I could have. But what I did instead was I chose to go find a job working for somebody else, but bringing all that expertise to that role.
That's interesting. So for you, this decision was the financial the primary driver, or was it? Because I'm hearing you express fatigue, perhaps, on reinvention of your business model. Yeah,
it was both, and thank you for that clarification. It was. I've worked so hard at this, and I hate the word pivot, so I don't want to say that. I'd evolved the business so many times previously and never really found the success, financial or otherwise, that I'd really wanted, which is ironic given that I'm a sales consultant, right? And my background is sales. So I got to this point and thought, well, I can either do that again and try again, or I can say, time to do something different. And that was where I said, time to do something different.
Okay, I'm not going to let you gloss over this, though, because I don't know if it's ironic, but it's the fact that you brought it up. Like your role has been to support, and currently is now for another organization, their sales. So were the challenges that you faced sales related, or were they all the 75 million other parts of running a business related?
Such a good question. And I'm really glad that you asked that, because this is something so many business owners struggle with. No, I'm very good at sales. What I'm not very good at is creating those sales opportunities and generating the leads. And probably more importantly, and I don't I only want to speak about my experience. I think I've seen a number of small businesses that have experienced a similar problem, but I only want to speak about my experience. And that was I consistently undervalued myself and what I brought to businesses. And the other piece to that, I believe there's a place where there's kind of that magic fit where the people you are serving both value and can afford what you can provide for them, and you are able to provide it, and it's financially rewarding for you. And I don't think I ever found that magic fit. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it's like it's an operational issue. It's pricing strategy. I think as an entrepreneur, and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs here, this how much do I charge is like this ever evolving.
It's more than that. It's okay. What's the value of what you provide? The pricing is only a piece of that. It's the value of what you provide and the perceived value. And I know from conversations you and I've had before, people typically undervalue marketing. They think it's something that anybody can do. And you and I both know that's not true. Same thing for sales. People think that you can set up a business and sales will just come to you. And it doesn't, you can just take an order and that'll all build your business. Yes, but no. It's much more nuanced than that. There's much more strategic thinking behind it, as also with marketing. And so I've come to the conclusion, and I'm maybe running ahead of where you want to go with our conversation. I've come to the conclusion that it is difficult for a small business, as a small business model, to actually make that work unless whatever you are selling, the service you're selling, is extremely high value. That's the conclusion I've come to.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with that. It's there's definitely that mismatch in perceived value and documentable. I mean, that's always the hard part, right? Because clients never want to give you the data for you to actually document what the earned value of your delivery is. I mean, that's where the marketplace, it's like, right? People are going to hire you if they want what you have to offer.
Right.
And I think, I see we're a marketing agency, but often the problem statement that we get is, I need more sales. And what can you do to generate them? As if it's a magic bullet that you just...
And I needed it yesterday.
Right.
And neither marketing nor sales works like that.
Right.
The kinds of sales where you can run an ad campaign and really magically generate a huge increase in revenue, that only happens when you have really huge budgets and you already have established brand and you have an established position in the marketplace. So when you talk about it in relation to small business, that whole scenario kind of changes. And I hate to say this because I don't want to rain on people's parades, but I've come to feel that a small business of the type that I was trying to run, which was a sole member LLC, it was just me until I had some contractors. I wasn't ever trying to build a gigantic empire. That was never my intention. But so like a consulting-based business, come to think that unless you are providing a service that is perceived as high value, it's very hard to actually earn what you are worth. That's my conclusion. And that a lot of people that I know in my small business community, because it's a wonderful community, my goodness, the people are amazing in the small business community. But I feel a lot of those people are able to do what they're doing because they have a partner who's got a steady job with the benefits, with the health insurance, with the regular paycheck, what have you, et cetera, et cetera. And that's really sad to me. I think of all the opportunity out there and the opportunities with remote working and gig working, and I just think, but is it even realistic?
I think that's a fascinating topic because, and I was actually having a similar conversation with another entrepreneur who left corporate, so sort of flipped here. Like she started big corporate and then went entrepreneur for the lifestyle with full awareness that her her earning potential was going to be nowhere near what she could get paid in sort of in the job. And we were talking about this idea of, because it comes across for me too. It's like, well, my husband has the benefits, the healthcare, we have a 401k as a small agency. You can do that, but and we actually offer health insurance to our employees as well. But I'm older. Mine is way more expensive, and his big corporate job subsidizes way more than I could as a small business. So it's almost it's yet another point of privilege and I recognize this, that I am able to, because I love it, I'm able to choose a career path, which is owning a small agency, supporting primarily small businesses. As you're saying, there's a huge opportunity cost in terms of my potential income, my potential support to the family. And that's, not everyone out here, most people don't have that luxury.
Right.
So it's sort of, when you hear of the single parent who, from the ground up, scrappy, puts a business together and makes it, it's not just like, go girl. It's more like, wow, because
what did you
sole
do?
Provider?
What did you do to make that happen? Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's not enough discussion about this out there. I mean, I did set up my business initially for family reasons. I still had very young children. I needed to meet the bus, and I knew I was coming back from being at home with the kids for a while. And I knew that trying to go into corporate was going to be really, really challenging, because I needed to work basically 3/4 time. I needed that flexibility. They still get sick. They got dentist appointments, blah, 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 blah. So trying to be a working parent, my solution was set up a business and use the skills that I have to help other small businesses. And so, yep, that was really an interesting ride and a really interesting journey. But the conclusion I've reached after nearly 8 years was, what we were just talking about, it was a privilege to be able to do that. And I learned a ton of things, met amazing people, but I'm not sure it's sustainable. And I cringe hearing myself say that, because I want to champion small business and entrepreneurship and innovation in the small business community, but I just don't know that it is possible. Like you said, that scrappy sole parent, that's really unusual. That's a unicorn.
Yeah, I mean, I think sustaining a business is by definition, rare. The majority of businesses don't last.
Don't make it past 5 years.
So
yeah,
and I think for what you set your business up to do, like anybody in the consulting space, we're selling our own knowledge, right?
Expertise.
You're selling
expertise. Yeah.
You hit your own personal capacity pretty quick. Even if the valuation was there, you still, I think, when you're comparing, sort of your income potential, and I meet a lot of agency owners, and there's certainly agencies that are killing it, but they have scaled.
Right.
They have scaled, and they have productized as much as possible, which is not what you were doing. It's not what Arlington Strategy does either. It's custom consulting. It's keyed to the problem for every individual client, which is really high inputs. And unless you have a big enough team that you can, because the margin is not there.
Right. And to your point, in that model, you needed to be not working with small businesses. Because you're keeping it small and customized, that's a premium product, which a small business doesn't necessarily want or can afford, right? So this is where you get into the I'm not sure what the right word is. The business model itself becomes an issue.
It does. And to sell into, if all of a sudden we want to be an agency for Fortune 500s, they're looking for things that are like specific pieces of expertise. They're
Correct.
not hiring generalists. So there's by its very nature, there is this It's sort of maybe not what you want to go into, kids, if you want to be really wealthy.
No, they all want to be YouTube celebrities, right? Yeah, but also that's not really what you want to go into if you want to be really wealthy, because it's like all of the things that are so famously lauded as, look at these success stories. You look at it in professional sports, you look at it in entertainment, and there are people who've made it, but how many don't? It's like such a pyramid, and to get to that pinnacle, it's a very, very, very small number.
Yeah.
And I think that the really successful entrepreneurs that are household names that even people like my husband who works in the federal government have heard of, those people, I to a degree, I think there's an element of luck. They're in the right place at the right time. They had some money that happened to come along, or whatever the combination of factors were. Like, because you and I work really, really hard to do what we do, and we put our heart and soul into it, and we support the people around us who are supporting us, and we're part of our communities, and we do all of these things, and yet we're not killing it. Right?
Right. I think so much. I mean, it goes all the way back to, where were you born? What's the color of your skin? What were your parents' education level? These things correlate.
And we also have privilege there. I mean,
totally.
I 100% know that I have privilege there. I've always come from an educated family. I've had opportunities that I know people don't have opportunities. And yet, I still couldn't get to where I wanted to be. And you said something about scalability earlier. Yeah, exactly. If you are an entrepreneur and you haven't got a business model that can be scaled, you run into capacity problems pretty darn quickly.
Totally. So in hindsight, in foresight for you, like do you think you were successful? Was it, if you could, how do you define success? For yourself?
Yeah, that's such a tricky question, isn't it? I used to think it meant I was making the kind of money that allowed my family to not be worried and be able to do things we wanted to do without having to make choices. And that gave me the flexibility to really live my life. So you were sharing with me earlier that you're going on an unexpected trip to be with your aunt, and yeah, to be able to do things like that, to be able to say, a friend is in town, I'm going to put down everything and go see that friend because I haven't seen her for 8 months. And this was an unexpected thing. Go do that, to live your life. So for me, it was that. But there is an ego piece to it too. I wanted to be known as an expert who could support and help other business owners within a small community. I wasn't looking for global recognition or anything like that. But in a small community, I would have liked to have been the go-to person. And did I achieve that? No. But I'm not done yet.
That's right. And I'm so glad you said that, because part of this, I wonder, is, you as an individual have so much to offer the world, right? You want to impact your community. There's lots of ways to do that. Through a business you own and manage is one of an infinite number of possible ways that you could be the go-to for something that you are proud of yourself for, right?
Correct. And it's interesting as I'm now in this part of my journey. So I'm now working 3/4 time for another organization, but you'll note that I left that 1/4 for myself. And I have a friend, he's like, I knew it, Kim. He said, I knew you couldn't take the entrepreneur out of you. It's still there. And yes, so right now I'm working out how do I want to present myself as a brand still to the world, whether that's Kim Fredrich, B2B small business sales consultant, or still as the Ventus Group, which is a little bit different. And I'm just figuring that out, because I do still want to be able to take that skill that I have and help other people. I want to help small businesses, because for me, and it's probably for you, the same for marketing. For me, sales is really easy. And seeing what sales processes should look like and how to connect that to what you're already doing and how to make sure that you're even speaking to the right audience and that your service is marketed in the right direction. All of those things are really easy for me. So I feel like I can still provide that to the world, as you said, but doing it through a small business lens. And I also feel pretty strongly that I will never retire because I will be bored. So I don't anticipate I will retire. But what I see happening is slowly moving that into something where, and I think you asked me earlier, like, where do you see yourself ending up? And the big way that I want to impact the world and the community is by helping facilitate better connection. Sales is really about connection. It's about connecting and serving and helping people solve problems. And where I see there are many, many problems right now is in a breakdown of communication. And so it all kind of comes around to the same thing, that connection and being able to understand and communicate better.
So it sounds like, I mean, what you're describing is like the fundamental core of what sales is, but is the application of sales in terms of a business process changed during your career? I mean, is that maybe what you're running up against is like, I mean, marketing certainly, even though fundamentally doesn't change, it's, connecting brand to customer, right? Like awareness building. The how we do it evolves all to the point of daily. It's annoying.
You know what? It's exactly the same for sales. So we are in a place now where it's been for some time. It used to be that people could be sold anything, and because people were really just didn't understand. We're living in a world where people are extremely cynical. They know when they're being sold to, and that's been the case for some time. So you're right. Sales at its heart has always been about connecting someone with a problem with a solution. That's always what it's been. The way sales happens, the how, has changed remarkably. And that, in fact, was the piece of the business that I folded, because what I was doing was outbound cold outreach, which did used to work. But it doesn't anymore, for a whole lot of reasons. It doesn't anymore. So the way sales is happening actually relies far more on marketing now.
Interesting. Very interesting. So now that you are working the job, and it's not a bad thing to have a job, is there a part of your entrepreneurship journey that your employer is benefiting from?
Oh my goodness, 100%. Yes, because I bring to the table that experience of a business owner. And so my view of sales and the way we operate product and service delivery at that organization is always influenced by that holistic entrepreneurial view of a business owner. Yes, 100%.
I love that you said that. We're in the middle of a hire, and when I see a resume of someone who's been an entrepreneur or is like in sort of a secondary role that isn't their primary, I was like, they get it. Like there's so much that adds value to an employer. So I'm glad you recognize that they're benefiting from that.
And interestingly, and I'm being really vulnerable here, one of the internal struggles I had when I was making this decision about 6 months ago was, have I failed by going back to getting a job, a job, as we sometimes call it, because there's some shame in it. And I've come to recognize the opposite, as we were just saying, that actually having had that experience makes me more valuable as an employee.
Right. But at what point in this process did you recognize that? Because I appreciate the vulnerability, but we don't talk about businesses closing. We don't talk about, and I know yours is on pause or back burner or simmering right now. It's not. You're still in a yet to be announced position. We don't talk about that. You said because I'm using my own words here, but it felt bad. It wasn't something you were broadcasting to the world proudly that, hey, I'm stopping my business. Why don't we talk about that more and share more about your own sort of emotional journey?
Well, so answer the first question. We don't talk about it because it's failure. On one level, it's failure. And we hear all these stories about this startup who struck it rich, and this startup who did that, and this person who made $1 million and did all this, right? And we do occasionally hear, well, yeah, they failed 4 times before they made it rich, but we never hear the people who just failed. We never hear that. And so that's part of the reason why I'm happy to be upfront and honest about that. And actually, what helped me come to terms with it was really interesting. Someone said to me, your needs have changed. And so what you were trying to achieve with being an entrepreneur is no longer what you need to achieve by being an employee. And I thought that's so true. My life situation is different. My family situation is different. And it's okay to say that this is no longer serving me. And so once I made that realization, it was a much easier decision. In fact, I would tell people, I walked around telling people, it was like weight lifted off my shoulders because I no longer had to worry about how do I keep this going? What do I do next to keep it going? I just went, I don't need to.
It's very interesting. It's like this pressure of what will people think if I'm not, founder, CEO, or president of my business. And
But does that matter? If that business isn't successful, does it even matter?
I mean, I do wonder, Kim, how many of the people who we think are big, badass business owners walking around are doing any better or worse than our own experiences. I mean, I feel like for all the reasons we talked about, what is success? One, it's very personal for people, but 2, I think people fake how well they're doing.
Totally.
I mean, you and I we would be at networking events. How's business? It is great. It's so good.
People are faking it all the time. And you even right down to your P&L, because you will get a business that is on paper killing it. They're making huge revenue till you look at their actual profit. And their profit is minuscule, if they're even making profit. And this is where I get really frustrated with all the coverage in the media about things like WeWork and other highly leveraged startup type situations where they're losing millions and millions and tens of millions of dollars, and they're still being backed. They're like, oh yeah, this is such a great investment. And I think there are a ton of small businesses out there who are doing really good things who don't even get a look in to any kind of investment like that, who could do so many more good things with a little bit of investment, but they don't get that opportunity.
Yeah, it's very true. It's very true. So what would you say to somebody who hears this and is thinking to themselves, yeah, my business doesn't seem to be serving me right now?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think it's okay to stop and ask yourself, what do you need in your life, in your career, in your family, whatever the situation is, whatever combination of factors, to just stop and say, what do I need now? Because it might have changed. And I think the biggest thing I took away from this was that it was okay to, and I'm going to do air quotes, even though we can't see it, to fail. Because I didn't really fail. I helped a lot of people. I did write a book. I did a lot of really good work, and I never was in debt, but I never made what I thought was a successful go of it. So did I fail? Maybe, but maybe not.
That's deep thoughts.
Yeah.
That might be the title of your next book.
Oh,
I'm just putting it out there. Write another book.
Ooh.
Well, to bring this to a close and maybe to bring a little levity to the situation here. So, Kim, because I'm semi-obsessed with certain things in pop culture these days. Barbie or Ken, do you have any thoughts?
So I saw the movie. I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was absolutely brilliant how they totally made fun of the institution that they were created by and for within the context of the film. But I kind of think that Ken and Barbie they need to move on. Ken and Barbie as they are don't have a role in 2024.
You heard it here first. Thank you, Kim. So knowing that, there's a potential simmer back burner going on, if folks want to connect with you or learn more about you or your book, where can they find you?
Best place is LinkedIn.
Excellent. We'll have that link to the LinkedIn on the show notes for this episode. So thank you for joining the M Word today, Kim. It's been always fun talking to you, and today especially.
Yeah, we got into some deep things. I wasn't expecting that. So this was a great conversation.
Well, thanks for going deep and talking about what really matters. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening to the M Word. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Subscribe and never miss a podcast. Visit arlingtonstrategy.com for more. The M Word is an Arlington Strategy production hosted by Jennifer Mulchandani. Our theme music is by Moochie. Graphic design by Kayla Fagan and Emily Rare. Sound engineering and editing by Winston Turner.